Welcome to the International Broadcast Ministry of No Limits. I am Pastor Delman Coates, and here at No Limits, we want to help strengthen you, encourage you, and empower you to feel God's love and to live your life without limitation. Today's message is about to begin, and I want to thank you for watching and know that I'm praying for you to hear a special word from God as you watch. The word of the Lord reads as follows in Luke chapter 13, beginning at verse 6. It says, "Then Jesus told this parable. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came looking for fruit on it and found none. So he said to the man working the vineyard, 'See here, for 3 years I have come looking for fruit on this fig tree, and still I find none. Cut it down. Why should it be wasting the soil?' He replied, 'Sir, let it alone for 1 more year until I dig around it and put manure on it. If it bears fruit next year, well and good, but if not, you can cut it down.'" And can I read that again? Jesus told this parable. A man had a fig tree planted in his garden, and he came looking for fruit on it and found none. So he said to the gardener, "See here, for 3 years I have come looking for fruit on this fig tree, and still I find none." Cut that joker down. Why should it be wasting? That's interesting. Why should it be wasting the soil? Ebonics in the New Revised Standard Version. He replied, "Sir, let it alone for 1 more year until I dig around it and put fertilizer on it. If it bears fruit next year, good. But if not, then you can cut it down." I want to preach today, church, from the thought, I plan to do better. Do me a favor, look at your neighbor and say, "Neighbor, oh neighbor, I plan to do better." Come on, put your hands together, give the Lord praise. I plan to do a whole lot better. 19 years ago, when I first moved here to pastor this church, I was out one night and overheard a conversation between a husband and wife that I found quite interesting. The wife said, "Honey, I know you've been busy with work, but there are a few things that I need to share that I need you to address in our marriage and in our home. She said, "I'd like you to make more time for me and the kids. I need you to work on your anger. You've been on edge quite a bit since your best friend passed. And I really need you to fix some of these things around the house that are broken. The cabinet in the kitchen, the light in the hallway, and the mirror in the children's room." I'm abbreviating the conversation. It lasted for some time, but the husband listened intently, and after a few minutes said, "Dang, baby, I feel like I'm on a pip." They laughed and proceeded to discuss certain things that she felt her husband was slacking on and that she wanted him to give attention to. And it ended with the husband saying, "Honey, I plan to do better." When I went home, I had to look up the word pip because at the time I was not familiar with it. And when I asked around, when I looked it up, I learned that PIP isn't a word, it's an acronym. For the uninitiated, PIP stands for Performance Improvement Plan. And what it is a strategy used by employers to encourage and to incentivize employees who are underperforming with hopes that they can turn things around. It's called a PIP. For some of you who have been put on a PIP on your job, just the word itself conjures up loathing because you recall receiving the document or the email announcing that you were being put on a PIP. That document, that email outlined all of the things that you were to do, the skills to be developed, the behaviors to be corrected, the outcomes to be produced, and the areas where progress needed to be made. A PIP is an action plan. And the goal of a PIP is not to punish, to discipline, or to dismiss, The goal ultimately is to give you an opportunity to succeed. That's right. Even though it doesn't feel good to be put on a pip, even though it can be embarrassing, disconcerting, and anxiety performing, a pip is an opportunity for you to go to the next level within an organization by turning some things around. Well, church, I thought about it, and I began to wonder whether the same way pips exist in the natural, whether there is a pip in the supernatural. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15:46 that as it is in the natural, so it is in the spirit. Is it possible whether the same way a boss, an employer, or a supervisor can put you on a plan to address weaknesses, shortcomings, and deficiencies on your job, can God put us on a plan and a path for improvement in life and in faith in God? Since we serve a God who wants us to succeed, amen. We serve a God who wants us to be better, to do better, and to have better. Is it possible that rather than discarding us, he puts us on a plan to make us better? He doesn't want us to be average or mediocre or ordinary. And so when God sees that we are living beneath our potential, when he sees that we are going down the wrong path, when he sees that we could do better, have a stronger prayer life, that we could expand our knowledge of the Word of God, that we could increase in our service, our sacrifice, and our praise, when he sees that we could be better spouses, better parents, better Christians, when he sees that our capacity to go to the next level in God is being diminished by some habit, some hindrance, some lifestyle, some choice, some tendency, when God sees that our ability to fight the good fight, to withstand temptation, to intercede for our family, to be a voice in the community is being compromised, undermined, or threatened by something in us or around us, are there times when God creates a plan for our betterment, for our improvement, and our advancement? And I think this is a valid question. And I think the parable before us today provides a useful picture of God's performance improvement plan. It's a divine pip. It is through the prism of a man's encounter with an unproductive fig tree that he seeks to demonstrate how it is that we can all improve our spiritual lives and take our faith to another level. What we want to do this year is to make this year a better year than last year. What we want to do this year is to have more spiritual power to cast out demons this year than we did last year. We want to be so intact with God that our mental health, our spiritual health, and our physical health, our financial health exceed anything that anyone could have ever imagined for our lives. Well, in our text today, Luke tells the story about a landowner who had a problem with an unproductive fig tree. The landowner is frustrated because for some time he has visited a site on his estate where a fig tree had been planted, and over the course of 3 years he comes looking for fruit. He comes looking for substance, but every time he comes he is utterly disappointed because the fig tree is barren. And he concludes eventually that the best thing he can do is to cut the tree down because it is not producing what he expected. Listen to verse 6 again. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came looking for fruit on it and found none. The reason Jesus tells us this story is not to talk about fruit trees or gardens. No, fig trees were a very common thing in the Mediterranean world, and they were used in Scripture as a metaphor for the spiritual well-being of the people of God. And the reason Jesus lifts up this parable is to illustrate what you and I need to do, to illustrate what we can do to those areas of our lives that are unproductive. unproductive. You know the things that we are committed to doing, the areas that we have invested in, the choices we have made, expecting things would turn out well. You know the people that we pour into, but they're not applying what we showed them, the opportunities we decided to give a try that have not yielded any return, the person that we thought we'd give a chance who keeps disappointing us time and time again, the new idea we've explored that seems to be floundering, or the new resolution that we made just a week ago that still has not gotten off the ground. We all have them, things in our lives that we thought would be better, but they're not. Features of our lives that are barren, aspects of our lives we had high hopes for, but they're unfruitful. Attributes we wanted to improve, but they are still the same. And we keep coming to the tree looking for fruit, looking for growth, looking for progress, looking for productivity, but there's nothing on that tree. There is nothing worse, church, than living with something that has potential, or someone that you planted in your life that had purpose to it, but it's not yielding anything. And God says to us what the gardener says to the man in the text: it can get better. Yes, it can. It can get better. The relationship can get better. The job can get better. Your health can get better. Your family life can be better. Your spiritual strength and power can be better. Your resolve can get better. Look at your neighbor. Say, neighbor, it can get better. Yeah. Your prayer life, your time in the Word, it can get better. In fact, I would not be here today if I did not believe that the fig tree in my life and in yours could get better. And I want to probe this passage to see if we can glean some insight on how what we can do when God places certain aspects of our lives on a pip, aspects of our lives that are not bearing fruit. And the first thing this text is tailored to teach us is that when we are faced with what appears to be futile circumstances, we must first of all talk to the gardener. The key to this text, church, hinges upon what happens between verses 6 and verse 7. When verse 6 ends, we learn that the man is at his lowest point. We do not know at that time, at the end of verse 6, why he's where he is, but his disappointment results from the fact that for 3 years he's been investing in something and has nothing to show for it. And the critical moment in this text, church, get this, is right there at the end of verse 6, because what he does at the end of verse 6, when he is at his lowest point, can determine whether he rises to the occasion or whether he falls. That point, that place at the end of verse 6 must have been the most difficult point in his life, to have an expectation of something, to come looking for it, and to be left down day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, wanting something to go through the process that you believe will improve your future, and to come looking for results and to come up short. The man found nothing. And the truth is, there's someone listening to me right now who knows what it's like to have made an investment in something or someone, and to get to the end of the process and have nothing to show for it. You joined a church thinking that it would immediately lead to spiritual growth, but you still are not thrilled about worship. You can't stand the leadership, and your prayer life is still the same. You took a job or started a business assuming that it would lead to a life of luxury and prosperity, but you now have more headaches and problems than you had before. You got into a relationship or got married thinking that it would solve all of your longing for companionship, but 3 years in, and you're wondering whether you made a good decision. And I've discovered that when people arrive to the end of verse 6 in their lives, to the point where they come to something looking for productivity, and that is the place where they get disappointed, where they get discouraged and borderline depressed. That is when you have to be careful, church, because when you get to the end of verse 6 of your life, that is when the enemy comes in and tries to influence your mind. Yes, that's when the devil tries to weaponize discouragement. That is when the enemy comes into your mind and cause you to question yourself, will cause you to attach your feelings to what you see. That's where the enemy resides, church. The devil resides in the realm of what you can see with your eyes, because if he can get you to look at the facts of your situation, he can cause you to lose faith in your situation. And I'm coming across many people these days who are at the end of verse 6 in their lives. They are struggling with depression. They are dealing with a sense of letdown. They are starting to question everything, question themselves, question God, and question the situation. And they are at a point where they want to give up on the tree, turning to other things to cope with, turning to drugs and gambling, extramarital relationships. And what they are doing is they are looking at other people who've got fruit on their fig trees, and they are developing what I call OCD. That's obsessive comparison disorder. That's when you look at somebody else's situation and you start comparing it to your. I'm working on something. That's when you look at someone else's marriage and you start comparing it to your marriage. That's when you look at somebody else's house, somebody else's job, somebody else's family, and you start wondering how you measure up to somebody else's. That's called OCD, obsessive comparison disorder. And because they're comparing their situation to somebody else, it's causing them to feel shame and resentment and regret. And you know when you're at that point, because you start saying to yourself, I should have never planted this tree in the first place. I should have never taken this job. I should have never bought this car. I should have never gotten married to this person. Is there anybody here who's ever been at the end of verse 6 of your life? But I love what the landowner does between verse 6 and verse 7. Rather than self-medicating on drugs and liquor and weed, rather than giving up on life, rather than losing all of his hope, the landowner talks to the gardener. That's the turning point in the text. Yes, he is disappointed. Yes, he's perhaps even upset, but he does not turn inward, he turns outward, and he talks to somebody else. And that's what someone listening to me right now needs to understand. Somebody is at the end of verse 6 of your life, and you are at a point where God sent me to tell you that it's time to talk to somebody else. Have I got a witness here? When you don't talk to somebody, you will likely implode or you'll explode. Have I got a witness here? You'll either turn in on yourself or you'll give out on yourself. And when you don't talk to people, it happens when you don't avail yourself to people and to resources that could bless you. Because when people don't talk to people because they're afraid and embarrassed to seek help and just don't know how to do it. Staying to ourselves is why a lot of people don't get the breakthrough that they really need. Staying to themselves is why a lot of men don't end up getting the healing that they need. Staying to themselves is what a lot of young people coming of age in social media are doing when they post and record their frustration rather than receiving constructive feedback and support. Staying to themselves is what people dealing with pride and shame do. But God sent me to tell you, don't do that. Don't hold hold it in because you might implode or you're going to explode. Somebody listening to me right now, you're on the verge of imploding. You got so much frustration and so much anxiety and so much pressure building up on the inside of you. You are at the tipping point. I want to tell you, talk to somebody. But don't just talk to anybody. You got to talk to someone who specializes in what you're dealing with. I like the man because this man takes his problems, his frustrations, and his disappointment not to anyone, but to a gardener. He talked to someone who specializes in the area where he is in need of support. Listen, church, if you want to live on purpose and in purpose this year, and if you want to bring back to life areas in your life that are barren and broken, you need to talk to someone who specializes in your kind of issue. You need to talk to a therapist, a coach, a trainer, a financial advisor, a pastor, a spiritual mentor, a trusted friend. There are so many people who get off track because they take their problems to the wrong people. People talk to friends who aren't going anywhere about their future. People talk to those who can't keep a relationship about theirs. People talk to those who don't pray about spirituality. People talk to those without a dream about their dreams. You got to stop talking to people who have never been where you're trying to go. You got to stop talking to people whose lives are unproductive about what's going on in you. This man who had problems with a fig tree talks to somebody who specializes in fig trees. And that's a good thing, church, because when he takes his problem to the gardener, he is realizing that he can't handle it by himself. Talk to somebody who specializes. But when you do that, you got to avoid a fatal mistake in the text. The man talks to the gardener about his fig tree, but then he tries to tell the gardener what to do about it. Are y'all here? He tells the one who specializes in fig trees what to do with the tree. Here he is in the presence of the one trained in horticulture who has experience in gardening, telling him what to do with the tree. Y'all not here today. If your Benz breaks down, you don't take it to a Toyota dealer. You take it to a Mercedes dealer because the manufacturer is best suited to fix your problem. If you got a heart issue, you don't go to a dermatologist. You go to a heart specialist because they specialize in your issue. And when your lives are unproductive, you should take your problem to the one who is the creator and the sustainer of life. Notice what the man says to the gardener. He says, cut it down. In other words, he tells the gardener, this is a useless tree. Get rid of it. And people draw conclusions about their lives and about their circumstances all the time. And they reach conclusions about the finality of their situation out of weariness. They tell themselves it's over. Cut it down. They tell themselves it's done. Get rid of it. There's no more hope for me. No more hope for my future. No more hope for my family. No more hope for my life. That's it. I give up on ministry. I'm giving up on this job. This is not what we ought to do when we talk to God, church. We do not tell God what's possible with the tree in our lives. We do not diagnose our situation and then tell God what God ought to do about it. No, we do not dictate to the one who created the tree what the tree is capable of and what it can bring forth. Don't do that. Tell your neighbor, don't do that. Don't say my life isn't bearing fruit, so I'm not going to take it any longer. Don't say to this child isn't reflecting the family image, so I'm going to write the child off. Don't say this husband, this wife, this partner isn't what I thought they would be, so I'm going to throw it away. Don't say that this season in ministry is not yielding what I desire, so I'm going to walk away from it. Don't tell the gardener what the gardener ought to do with the fruit tree. Because when you do that, you are going to miss the lesson that the gardener wants you to get. What stands out to me is that the man wants to get rid of the tree so he can get another tree. I'm right, it's in the parable. He says, hey, gardener, I want you to cut down this tree because it's wasting soil where I could just plant another tree. He wants to get rid of the tree he planted so he could plant another tree in its place. Y'all not here. Y'all got to watch this. What the man wants to do is he wants to get rid of his current problem, his current unfruitful, unproductive tree, so he can put another one in its place. And that's where many people make the mistake in life, thinking that the problem is with the tree. It's like people who think that if they can get another job or move to another city or have a different circumstance that the productivity would be better. But it's not the job, it's not the city, it's not the hand you were dealt. It might be your work ethic. It might be that you are disagreeable with people. Too many of us make the same mistake, thinking that the problem is with the tree. Nudge your neighbor and say, it ain't the tree, honey. Thinking if I just get a new wife, that'll make me happier. Thinking that if I just switch jobs, I'll make more money. Thinking that if I just get a newer house, it'll make me feel more accomplishment. But replacing unfruitful trees won't necessarily make you more fulfilled. Here's the lesson the gardener had to help the man understand. The gardener had to help the man understand that his problem isn't at the fruit level, it's at the root level. The problem wasn't with the outcome, it was with the input. That's what the lesson the gardener wants him to get. Brother, your problem here is not with what you see above the ground. Your problem is what's beneath the surface. He says, sir, please leave that poor little tree alone. Your frustration has little to do with the tree and has more to do with the process that you used to plant the tree. You fill in your own process that you went through to get your tree. And the gardener says, sir, your problem is not with that tree. It's with the soil that the tree is planted in. Look at the text. The gardener says in verse 8, sir, give me one more year. Turn it over to me. Let me dig around the tree and put some manure on it. Is that in your text? What the man realizes is that he can't just talk to the gardener. The second step is you got to give the tree to the gardener. It's one thing for him to express his frustrations to the gardener, but it's another thing to totally turn the problem, turn the tree over into the hands of the one who can handle what he is struggling with. That's important because don't miss this. The man experiences this frustration because he is in front of the one who can plant the tree himself. The man is so discouraged with the lack of productivity because it was something that he put together. He planted that tree, and putting another tree there wasn't going to make his problem any better, because you can put another person there, another job there, another house there, and if you are still the same landowner, you're going to come out with the same problem. Y'all not here today. Some of you know people, not you but your neighbor, they go from person to person, relationship to relationship, job to job, thinking that by switching the tree, switching the person, switching the relationship, that's going to improve things. Now, it might not be the tree. It might be the soil that you're planting your tree in. I remember over 25 years ago when I was a graduate student at Columbia University, I had a great idea one day. My grandparents had a farm in North Carolina, and I thought that I would plant some fruits and vegetables in my apartment. No lie, I did that. I had a great idea to plant some fruit and vegetables in my apartment. My father and my grandfather all had gardens. So I wanted to continue the legacy in my apartment at 120th Street and Broadway in New York City. I took some seeds, I got some soil, and I put them in a pot, and I sat there and watched it for 9 months. Nothing happened. I'll never forget going to Lawndale, North Carolina for Thanksgiving that year, and I told my grandfather what happened with this unfruitful tree that I was planting in my apartment. And my grandfather said, Delman, you cannot get productivity from plants you're planting in your apartment. It's not going to bear tomatoes because there's no pollen in your apartment. I said, what do you mean, Grandpa? He said, with these seeds that you are sowing need a pollen in the atmosphere in order for there to be some productivity with this tree. In other words, he was telling me the problem was not with the tree. The problem was with the process I used to plant the tree. And I want to tell someone here today who's at a point where you are so frustrated with the affairs of your life that the problem just might not be the tree. The problem just might be with the process that you've used to plant the tree. Have I got a witness here? I want to tell someone here today that we serve a God that if you put your tree in God's hands, He'll dig around the tree and He'll put fertilizer on it, and all you got to do is give Him another chance. Have I got a witness here? I want to tell somebody here today that the problem isn't with your plant. The problem is with your process. Instead of us doing what God blesses, we ask God to bless what we're doing. That's backwards. We make moves and then consult God after the fact. The problem is when we go with God's way, you're going to get it right on the front end. Get it right on the front end. Because when God puts it together, He is the one who can fix it when it falls apart. Have I got a witness here? People put their relationships together. They had good intentions, but good intentions will only get you so far. They have tried. They are tired of being a perpetual bridesmaid. So they decide they're going to take anybody who comes along. Have I got a witness here? There were so many stories over the last few months of people losing their life savings in the cryptocurrency market, and now they are broke because they were trying to get rich by taking the shortcut. Have I got a witness here? Or people who reached a point where they genuinely wanted to have a family. That's a good thing, but they ended up choosing the wrong mate. Lord have mercy. And now they are living with a whole lot of consequences of choices they made. Have I got a witness here? You have got to learn how to give it to God. And if you give it to God on the front end, He'll take care of you on the back end. Have I got a witness here? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you can try to do the right thing the wrong way. Just like Jacob, who tried to trick his brother Esau to get a blessing. He was trying to get God's favor, but he went about it the wrong way. The gardener tells the man, this issue is not with the tree, it's how you planted it. And some of you are here today, you are dealing with some stuff, and the problem isn't with the tree, it's how you planted it. The man realizes that he's got to put the tree into the hands of someone who is skilled at planting fig trees and allowing him to work on it. Have I got a witness here? I want to tell somebody here today, you need to give your problem over to the gardener. Come on, touch your neighbor and say, neighbor, give it to the gardener. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to always handle it. You don't have to be Superman. You don't have to be Superwoman. Talk to somebody. Give it over to somebody so you don't get disappointed, frustrated, aggravated, irritated. If you put it in God's hand, He can handle it. Have I got a witness here? It's okay if you can't handle it. I know you're the pastor. I know you're the parent. I know you're the head. But you don't have to be an angel. You don't have to be perfect. You are human. It's okay for you to talk to somebody about your marriage, about your ministry, and about your money. Don't let your inability to solve it yourself keep you from giving it to the gardener. Have I got a witness? For this unproductive tree to be fruitful, it'll need a smarter, wiser, skilled person who is able to handle what you can't handle. Have I got a witness? And sometimes our lack of production is because we're trying to handle it ourselves. Have I got a witness? But when you give your tree, your problem, your issue, your son, your daughter, your business, your education, your bills, your future to the gardener, when you allow God to work on you, on your family, on your mind, on your job, you are letting Him handle it. Have I got a witness? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, God can fix what you can't fix. God can change what you can't change. God can solve what you can't solve. God says, don't get rid of it. Put it in my hand. Isn't it good to know that we serve a God of another chance? Have I got a witness? God says, give it to me. Give your son to me, your family to me, your finances to me, your mind to me, and I'll turn it around. But I know what you're saying. You're saying, Pastor, my tree is too far gone. My tree is almost over. But God says, give it to me. God says, I see something in you that you can't see. Give it another chance. It's still alive. Yeah, yeah. Is there anybody here at the top of a new year who can say, Pastor, I plan to do better? Look at your neighbor. Say, neighbor, I plan to do better with my fitness, my faith, my family, my finances, my temple, my time, my talent, my treasure, my anger, my attitude, my assignment, with my worship, my witness, and in the word, I plan to do better with my communication, my conversation, and my concentration, my relationship, my reputation, and my rest. I plan to do better with where I put my energy, my effort, and my ego, how I choose my friends, my focus, and my future. I plan to do better with my prayers and my praise and my priority. I plan to live better, be better, and do better. I'm gonna be a better friend, a better parent, a better partner, a better pastor, a better Christian, a better citizen, a better teacher, a better leader. I plan to do better at praising Him, at worshiping, at serving, at following. I plan to do better at lifting Him up, at giving Him glory. Yeah, yeah. I plan to do better with fighting for justice and advocating for change and using my voice. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. If you put it in the hands of God, He'll turn it around. Come on, give Him praise. Give Him praise. Give Him glory. The problem that this man was having was not at the fruit level. It was at the root level. Some of us think it's the fruit. We think it's the tree. And when that happens, it causes us to look at other people. Sometimes it's the process we used to plant the tree. You might not be able to get fruit from the environment that you have your life planted in. And perhaps if you plant your tree in good soil, let God fertilize it, then you'll get the fruit. Here at No Limits, we want to do everything we can to help you get the most out of each message preached on the broadcast. That's why we created a free sermon viewing guide for each message. The viewing guide contains some commentary, the key points from the message, some space for note-taking, and questions to consider throughout the week. You can request your free copy of the sermon guide by going to our website at delmancoats.org. That's delmancoats.org, and clicking on the Watch tab in the menu at the top of the page. From there, you can view any message from our archives and download the sermon guide for that message before you watch. Thank you for tuning in today, and I pray the message blessed and encouraged you as you strive to live a life with no limits. I am so glad that you took the time to watch this message today. If you have been blessed by this outreach, I'd like to ask you to become a partner in this ministry so that together we can reach the world for Jesus Christ. My heart is to reach people just like you all around the world and to tell them that God loves them and wants to empower them to live a life with no limits. Your financial investment in this ministry will enable us to spread the good news of Jesus Christ around the world so that more people can be inspired and encouraged. Will you help me to reach those people? Will you join me in empowering the lost and the forgotten? Will you be my partner as we teach people to truly live a life with no limits? To make a donation safely and securely, go to our website at delmancoats.org. That's delmancoats.org. and look for the donate button on the top right of the homepage. Thank you in advance for your support and for becoming a true partner in No Limits. Your partnership and financial gift will help us impact the world by bringing hope to those who need it. Your generosity today is a reminder of the goodness of God. Thank you again for watching No Limits with Pastor Delman.
The preceding program was brought to you by the faithful supporters of No Limits and Mount Enon Baptist Church in Clinton, Maryland.